All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Business Blast podcast. This is your host, Tyler Wagner. Today, I have an extremely very special guest, Paul Brodie. He's an 11-time best-selling author. 3 years ago, he was a teacher, and now he works for himself full-time, helping others publish their books. So welcome to the show, Paul. Happy to have you.
Hey, Tyler. Always a pleasure.
So we'll dive right in. The first question I have for you is, what's the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Don't be afraid to take the plunge. Don't be afraid to take risks, because the biggest risks that I ever took have worked out brilliantly. And I think the worst thing that can happen is if you don't take risks in life, because you never know where it's going to take you. A year ago, I left teaching to take this huge risk and be able to coach. And now I get to be my own boss, set my own hours, and I can do this job from anywhere in the world. And there's nothing better than having that type of freedom.
And what's the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
The main thing is that getting your book published can change your life, as having your own book is going to help you build and grow your business. It's going to make you an authority in your area of expertise, and it's going to check off a big item off your bucket list. We talked about regret on the previous question. That's another thing. You have 81% of people, according to New York Times, that want to write a book, but less than 1% actually do it. So it's just getting that book published, getting it out there. That's how I changed my life. And I know it can change many other people's lives as well.
And if anybody agrees with you, it's me. So I'm with you on that. The next question is what's your best piece of overall business advice? So not necessarily like industry specific.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that you have to enjoy what you do for a career, and it's never too late to change your life. I left teaching to run my own business, and I was 41 at the time. So don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to take the plunge, because you never know what's going to happen.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
So for that one, it's when I was thinking about that, I'm like, well, I think the main thing, as we get older, we get wiser. So I would say to have more patience, and most importantly, don't eat burgers and fries after 2 a.m. after enjoying a night out with your friends at the local watering hole.
I love that answer. And in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
The key to happiness, in my view, is doing what you love as a career, because we spend so much time with building our careers so we can, take care of our families and have a house and a car and all that good stuff. So it's doing what you love as a career and spending time with the people who are the most important to you in your life.
And this will be a great question for you. So what's the best book you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from it?
So I was actually thinking about this over the past week, and there's several, but the one that really stood out was The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. And the main thing with that is to not take things for granted in life, because you never know if today could be your final day. I mean, you and I have talked in the past. I've had a couple of health scares, and the biggest lesson that I've learned is don't take things for granted. And so The Last Lecture really resonated with me.
And what's your favorite quote and why?
What the mind of man and women can conceive and believe, it will achieve. W. Clement Stone. And I share that story because he was actually the president of Combined Insurance. He was both my mom's boss and my dad's boss. And literally, I would be where I am without some of the teachings I've learned from Mr. Stone over the past few decades.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, Paul. The last question I have for you just before we let you go is, where's the best place for people to find you online?
Well, you can get more information about me and my coaching services by going to brodieedu.com. It's just short for education. So brodieedu.com, brodieedu.com. As I do have several free gifts on the website, including my first book publishing book. And we actually relaunched it back in January. It's a second edition, and it's called Book Publishing for Beginners. So I want to invite everyone in your audience, go to my site, check it out. It's a free download, and it's really going to help you start the author journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And for anybody listening, I highly recommend getting it. I mean, Paul's an 11-time best-selling author. So if anybody knows how to help somebody out who's just starting in the publishing industry, it's definitely him. So thanks again for coming on, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler. Pleasure as always.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.